Welcome to the Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap Kasai Pro 7 that Emil and I attended live in Dallas, Texas. We're going to recap the Third Coast Grappling Qualifier 3 and Finishers 11. We're also going to preview Quintet Bellum 3 and the Who is Number 1 event. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host,
Emil.
How you doing, Emil?
I'm doing really tired, Maine. How are you doing?
I'm also doing really tired. So we'll talk about that more at the end of the show. Emil and I flew down to Dallas, Texas this weekend to cover Kasai Pro 7, and our return flight was very, very early in the morning, and we got done with the venue about 1:15 in the morning and went to bed at like 2:30 in the morning, and then flew out or left the hotel at 5. So we slept about 2 hours before we had to leave Dallas. But we got some great interviews. Those interviews are going up on the Grappling Rewind YouTube page. We interviewed Cyborg. We interviewed the CEO of Kasai, Rich Byrne. We interviewed Dante Leone. We interviewed the Tackett brothers. We interviewed Cody Steele. We interviewed Gaudio. We interviewed Nicky Rodriguez. We interviewed Maggie Grandotti. We interviewed Cyborg. We have some really great content coming out. If you're not subscribed to the Grappling Rewind page, the Grappling Rewind YouTube page, I highly recommend that you go and do that because we're going to put some really cool content out in the next week.
Yeah, also got a bunch of really great photos from the event too, so check it out.
Did we do already, as always in the show, I'm your host, Mange, my co-host?
Yes.
Emil, yeah. So that's where we're at right now with me. So let's kick it off with some news. Everyone signed with Substars this week. That's the first note I got.
Yep.
Gordon Ryan got signed this week, and then it was now announced today that he's going to fight Tex Johnson. That's actually a rematch. So I think Gordon's first black belt loss, I think it was actually a gi match.
I didn't know it was a gi match, but I did know.
Somebody told me today it was a gi match, and I was like, really?
Yep.
So back at Grappling Industries, back in I think 2015 or something
like that,
way back in the day. So I'm actually super excited about that. Tex has a win over Penna.
I was about to say Tex, surprisingly, he can punch up.
Dude, he's a dude that at any given day can tap anyone.
Yeah.
But Gordon's just really, really consistent. So I'm actually really excited for the dynamism of that match and how both guys will match up, given Tex's propensity for just grabbing a foot and going and, like you said, punching up. We see him have some struggles now and again with certain guys, but he's a guy that can catch anyone in the world, and Gordon is a guy that can get on your back for anyone in the world. So actually really excited for that matchup. That should be a really good matchup. Curtis Blades, UFC fighter, is now going to face Rumble, former UFC fighter, in a sumo match for Substars.
At Rumble weight.
And I think Yama's in there. Yama's a former 600-pound sumo wrestler, and Josh was like, I don't really know what they're doing here. This is going to be interesting. He talked about, I wish Josh was on here because Josh basically talked about Yama's record and who Yama was as a sumo fighter. And we actually used to cover sumo on the Grappling Rewind back in 2017 into early 2018. We'd follow all the sumo. Actually, when you started the show, we were still covering sumo a little bit, and we kind of phased it out just because there was so much jiu-jitsu happening, we couldn't do it. So
actually, in sumo news, the Emperor's Cup just happened, and there was a huge upset in the Emperor's Cup. Magashira 17 won the cup.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
That's
he went
unheard of.
14-2.
That's crazy.
The only reason why I know that, I love sumo. I haven't been following it recently, but he understandably was very emotional when he won and cried, and so there was these news outlets that were covering it. But his name is Tokushoryu, and he even beat an Oseki to win. Yeah, so
no one that hasn't watched the show since 2017 has any idea. He punched up in the most punch up in recent history in sumo ever, is basically what that means.
Yeah, I think they said that the last time someone that low ranked won the Emperor's Cup was in 2000 or something like that. So close to 20 years.
So big deal. Let's move on to other sumo news. Lovato, if you haven't watched, Raphael Lovato Jr. was on Rogan's podcast this week, and he basically announced that he has a really kind of uncommon to rare brain condition that causes his, I'm going to butcher this like an idiot, basically causes blood vessels in his brain to slightly weep, and it creates these lesions in his brain.
Yeah, which sounds super scary to me. But, evidently it's not stopping him from competing.
You mean he got announced to fight Cyborg at Substars in a couple weeks?
Yep.
And we interviewed Cyborg, and Cyborg talked about it and was super respectful to Lovato. I'm like, that's really cool. He likes Lovato.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that he's in jiu-jitsu, but he may not be able to fight anymore, which sucks because he took the title from Musashi in Bellator pretty recently. And he may not be able to defend that now because he may not be able to get cleared by any of the sanctioning bodies to fight. Which, again, if he has a brain issue. I hope that he can continue to do whatever he wishes to do in his career.
Right.
But am happy that he is still kind of doing more grappling.
I'm glad that it's not immediately threatening.
Yeah. Hopefully. And they basically said that they're not going to do anything unless he has symptoms. Right now, he has no symptoms. So I hope that, he continues to compete and, decides to stop competing on his own volition isn't forced to. So best of luck to Lovato. He's been a pleasure to cover on the show. And, he's one of the most accomplished, actually aside from Musumeci now, pretty much the most accomplished American in jiu-jitsu. So that sucks to hear. You should definitely go and listen to the Rogan podcast. It's really interesting because Lovato is a really good, great guy in jiu-jitsu. Dude, always with the downer notes in news. Felipe Pena has had tonsil surgery and apparently had tonsillitis 9 times in 2019.
Yeah.
All the fucking time.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. So I'm happy that that's fixed now, hopefully.
That's one of those things that just consistently
Well, it couldn't, you think that, and that kind of puts into question how he was doing at ADCC. Because if you honestly had it 9 times in 2019, at some point.
He was doing pretty good up until he got
he got tabled.
He got tabled. I winced when I saw him hit the table. That was brutal.
That replay is ooh, that sucks.
Yeah, well, hopefully they will fix that shit and he's on the mend, so.
Other news, Gordon never planned to retire. He announced in an Instagram comment that he never planned to retire, and everyone kind of went, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. You got us, Gordon.
Look, I'm honestly I wanna pretend like I'm upset about that, but I like covering.
We talked
Gordon.
about it when he announced it, the sport will be hurt if he leaves it.
Yeah,
100%.
He puts a lot of eyes on the sport
by orders of magnitude.
Yeah,
by orders of magnitude. We can't understate how much his presence really.
Love him or hate him,
eyeballs.
that dude puts eyes on jiu-jitsu.
If you take a step behind and look at the metrics of his stuff.
Oh yeah, anything we do regarding Gordon and anything any of the sites anyone does, it's Gordon gets McGregor, dude gets clicks.
Yep, exactly.
So glad he's back. Hope to see him fight, a ton. I hope he gets angry and fights every weekend in 2020.
Yeah.
Really what I hope happens.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because he's fun to watch compete. Let's see. Oh, Seth Daniels has announced that he's going to be on Fight to Win 136 as a fighter. We've not seen Seth for a while. He's going through some rehab and some life-changing stuff right now, so it's cool to see him he basically talked about in a post today that he's motivated to come back, give him something to work for, so it's really cool that he's using jiu-jitsu and his own event to do that.
Yeah.
So that is great. Let's see. BJJ Fanatics, just right before we announced the show, announced an 170-pound event coming up, and Jay has announced that he's going to commentate it. So those are 2 things I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
It is coming up, so I'm looking at flights right now because they've announced some names already.
Over in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've announced some names already, and it's
I might actually hit that up too. That sounds really dope.
Emil, it's I had to fly out again.
Let's do it.
I wish I had a bunch of names. It's good guys. I think PJ Barch is on there. I think Crownstein's on there as well. There's a bunch of guys that are hitters on the event. Let's see. Oh, other news. Polaris GP is starting to announce the names for their open weight Grand Prix.
I saw this. Yep.
Yeah. We got Wardzinski announced right now. Adam Wardzinski, butterfly player extraordinaire. We have Kanan Duarte, Emil's favorite grappler.
A.K.A. Adam Wardzinski's Achilles heel.
Man, Duarte has...
he has a run against Adam.
Man, he's not been favorable to Wardzinski.
Yeah.
We also have Freddie.
Yep, Vosgrove.
Vosgrove. I can never pronounce Freddie's first name. It's not Freddie. And we have Patrick Gaudio has been announced for the event.
Yeah.
So
this is in April, I think, early April.
Correct. April 4th is when I'm looking at tickets again for that. But that is a trip. That I maybe cannot afford.
Yeah.
And I'm working on. I'm looking at flights a couple times a week. Maybe in case flights go down, I can swing it. But Rachel's still in school, so it'd be a solo trip. I'm I don't really know if I can convince my fiance to not. She loves England. She loves going over there. To not go with me to this trip while she's in school.
Incidentally, the show's in Wales.
So it's an hour train ride from London or so. So I can fly into London, but still the logistics of making that happen. It's an international flight.
It's interesting to me that Wales is becoming a jiu-jitsu entity.
Fionn from there. You have I can't offhand name a bunch of grapplers.
Oh God, there was the other guy too. Ash Williams, I think, is also Welsh.
Oh, I don't want to mess this up because we've messed this up before.
All right, I'm gonna look it up while you continue.
So yeah, tons of events in the UK. Looking at flying over there to go cover that maybe. But we will see. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and other news. Zach Maslany retired. We'll talk about this more when we get to the Finishers 11 discussion, breaking down kind of the finals match that happened there. And Zach's been a competitor on the East Coast scene. He runs finishers for a long time, so it's cool to see him kind of get a win and then go out on top. Well, again, we're going to talk about this in the finisher discussion, but it's also kind of a newsworthy item because Zach's been on the competitive scene in the East Coast and kind of all around for a long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Friend of the podcast, too. Going back real quick, yeah, Ash Williams is from Wales.
Cool. I was not going to say that. I was like, yeah, I don't know. So, that does it for news. Let's move on to the recap section. So, on to a recap of Kasai Pro 7. Emil and I went to this live. We flew in from Baltimore to Dallas, and it was worth the trip. Emil, where do you want to start with this one?
Man, just overall, the experience was amazing. Like, we have this running joke where, like, just by sheer coincidence, like, I have not been able to cover the last couple of Kasais.
I think you covered Kasai Pro 4.
Yeah, I think that was the first.
That was the first one. Maybe the only. You might have covered a Super Series, but other than that, like, that's the only one you've covered.
Yeah. And it was just such an awesome experience. It's an amazing event. Like, if you get an opportunity, absolutely go and see this. This is like, they absolutely, like, Rich Burns, the founder, like, his intent with Kasai is to make it a spectacle and to make it that such that anyone can watch it.
To make it a spectator sport, like, in general.
For anyone, for people, like, who don't even watch. And you can see that just the attention to detail that they do, the professionalism, and just the quality of fighters, it shines through. It's an amazing event. The venue that we were at was awesome. It was called the Bomb Factory in Dallas. Was cool in Dallas. It was in the Deep Ellum neighborhood, which is a dope neighborhood. Like, it was just, everything about it was incredible. It felt truly professional.
Go to more jiu-jitsu events because I have not had a bad experience at jiu-jitsu events. They are always so much fun. Go to jiu-jitsu events. Kasai Pro 7 was absolutely no exception to this one.
Yeah.
Start with results then? Where do you want to go? Like, where do you start? There's so many. We're going to talk about a lot of fights on this card. Where do you want to start with this one, Emil?
Well, let's start off. Like the crowning heavyweight champ, Cyborg at 39 years old takes the Kasai Pro 7 championship over Lucas the Hulk Barbosa. Both guys were the winners of their respective brackets. And Matt don't lie, Maine. Matt don't lie.
So Emil did a graphic for Kasai Pro 7 before we did this, and he basically put Cyborg as the front runner and Hulk as the front runners to take those two divisions respectively based on the numbers since 2017.
Cyborg was my pick, and then I said Hulk was the only person that I thought that had, like, comparable level, at least more activity by the numbers. Yeah. And, boom, that finals. And it was an awesome finals, too. We'll talk about it in a bit.
So let's talk about how we got there first.
Well, before we get there, Kasai has kind of a unique layout. And then, because you won't understand the results that we read out if you don't understand how Kasai is laid out. Kasai does a 2-bracket round robin style format.
So it's an 8-man tournament, and you break it into 2 4-man brackets where each person will fight the other person, other 3 people in the bracket in the preliminary round. And then you get a number of points based on if you draw with the person, if you win on points versus the person, or if you submit the person. And the person with the most amount of points from that first, bracket of 4 moves on to the finals match. The person with the second most amount of points moves on to the semifinal or third place match. Absolutely. Versus the other person in the other bracket.
Yep. And so in between they have a bunch of super fights and stuff like that. But during the round robin, the way that there are match points basically is the way that it works.
Yeah.
So if you get a draw, for example, you get 1 match point.
Both guys get 1 point.
If you win by points, you get 2 match points.
And the other guy gets 0 points.
If you win by submission, you get 3 match points.
And the other person gets 0 points.
So now that's how the matches are scored in order to see who leaves the round robins to go to the finals
or the semifinal or the third place
or the third place.
This will make sense and why we're explaining this in such detail when we get to the end of the bracket A.
And also importantly is their actual point system within the match, right? So the way that it works is the way that they described it was it's more or less IBJJF rules with a couple of exceptions. The first is as moves go, heel hooks are allowed and reaping is allowed.
Yeah.
Secondly, there are no advantages, so you get a point for a near takedown. So let's say you take someone down, you don't control them for 3 seconds on the mat, they pop back up before those 3 seconds, you will still get a point for that. And that actually is very important throughout the tournament we'll talk about.
Super important. This is the only rule backstage Nick Rodriguez wanted clarification about.
Absolutely. And you get a point for a near submission as well.
Yeah.
And you do not get any points for near sweeps. Other than that, pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward IBJJF scoring. 4 points for the back, 4 points for the mount, 3 points for the pass, 2 points for the sweep. So, Emil, give us the brackets for this one.
Okay, in the first bracket, we have Nick Rodriguez, Cyborg, Vinny Magalhães, and Bruno Bastos. In the second bracket, we had who was supposed to be Patrick Gaudio, but ended up being a replacement.
Oh, sorry.
Joao Gabriel Rocha, Lucas the Hulk Barbosa, and Kyle Baim.
Who replaced Gaudio?
I have to look that up.
It's going to be, give me his name. It's Paulo. I cannot get his last name.
Azambuja. Yep.
It was replaced on like a day notice because
the day. It was the same
Gaudio
day.
was there.
Gaudio was there.
Super sick, and apparently he got sick. I did an interview with him. He got super sick. He was sick at Europeans, and then he came in, and I've heard from a couple people that he was like super sick the morning of weigh-ins, and he was like super sick he was super sick the morning of weigh-ins, made weight, and then the day of the event, he was like really, really sick. And he looked rough when I did an interview with him. He was there, but like was not in a shape to compete. So they replaced him with Paulo, who is like a pretty credentialed black belt. Like if you're gonna have a day,
was he a Cyborg black belt? Did I hear that right?
Black belt. I think he was an American national champion in jiu-jitsu. Like I
was impressed. Like he actually held together with like. I think he went against Joao Gabriel, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much every like that is if you can hang with Joao Gabriel Rocha, like you're
really, really good.
So for a last minute replacement, that was outstanding. So
Yeah.
we'll go in round by round, tell you what the results were, and any highlights from that. So in round 1, so we're gonna go for basically this will cover a bunch of the round robin matches.
Yes, basically.
So we have first match, Cyborg defeating Bruno Bastos by points. This was pretty clear dominance by Cyborg.
It wasn't a high scoring match, but Cyborg kind of imposed.
Yep.
Was able to get 2 points and just like really sort of wrote it out.
Next match we have Vinny Magalhães drawing with Nick Rodriguez. This was great.
This was crazy. So
Yeah.
I love the intro for this because each fighter had an intro, like a talking points that they had, and it was probably like a minute. And Vinny Magalhães' talking points were, I've been a black belt for 15 years. I have one submission loss at black belt to Hodger Gracie 14 years ago, my first year as a black belt. I've never been submitted no gi in competition.
And by the way, that was in gi.
That was in the gi.
Yeah.
I've never been submitted in no gi in 15 years in competition. And I went, wait, dude, what?
Yeah.
That's the craziest stat ever. I didn't realize that. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because, the only other guy that I know has a streak like that was also as active as Dean Lister.
Right.
Dean Lister had a 17-year streak, and I'm like, that is...
And Keenan also.
Until he got tapped by...
Right.
But it wasn't 17 years. It was
Yeah.
like
No,
4 or
I know.
5.
But
Yeah.
people streak. I think those streaks are actually more common than you think. Because, for example, when was the last time, the Meows have been submitted?
Purple, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All
you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
it
with
happens.
the reasonableness.
It's impressive. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but that was a cool talking point. So this match was hot fire.
Yeah.
Rodriguez, there's a highlight of Rodriguez basically jumping around and trying to roll to get Vinny's back, and super active, super aggressive passing from Rodriguez the whole time. But Vinny has that ironclad guard.
I mean, you were not kidding. Nicky's back take game has improved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He, not just in this match, but throughout the tournament, truly threatened people's backs in very real ways. People were
not getting that far side hook in, but everything else is where it needs to be. You just can't punch the last bit of the hook in, which is at the black belt level, that's what guys are specifically able to stop really well, and he's able to get really, really close to a lot of dudes' backs here.
Yeah, absolutely. So
this is honestly one to rewatch. If you're gonna watch a couple of these matches in the preliminary round, go watch Magalhães. It's also the match that Vinny Magalhães gets injured in. He pulled his groin. Did an interview with him after this match, basically talking about why he had to pull out of the tournament, what his plans were for 2020. But this is the match basically where he gets injured and cannot continue.
Next, we have Kyle Baim shocking the world submitting Joao Gabriel Rocha by heel hook.
This one is a little controversial because Joao Gabriel, actually pretty controversial for Joao. He was basically claiming that Kyle was like holding his shorts, or he was like caught in the short. I couldn't really tell at the event.
So it happened over on our side of where I was taking photos of the mat. And basically what happened was there was like a brief, like incidental, like, you know, you're just trying to get a grip, and Kyle happened to grab the shorts, but he released it and then ended up getting a leg.
Joao Gabriel starts to protest that
he starts to protest it,
and then Kyle leans back.
He does the thing where it's like, hey man, maybe instead of protesting and talking to the ref, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, like maybe you should be defending this. But honestly, like he had nothing for Kyle. Once Kyle began the leg entanglement, that shit was over.
Man,
like it was over.
Turned real
quick,
fast.
and you know it. So it was an awesome submission by Kyle Baim. B, obviously it was an upset. C, like it absolutely turned. It was the beginning of the crowd turning on Joao Gabriel Rocha. Like the crowd, because in later matches we'll talk about it. He started to he complained basically every single match, and the crowd was actually like jeering at him and like mocking him.
It was interesting
because
he's a Dallas guy.
Yeah, exactly, which was exactly right.
The crowd was a little hostile at certain points in the tournament. I was a little surprised. I don't usually hear that from jiu-jitsu crowds. It was
you know, like they weren't. At least my section wasn't that bad against anyone else. It was like pretty much just Joao Gabriel, and this was more or less the beginning of it. So Kyle Baim gets a submission. He gets 3 match points out of that, which puts him, you know, well above everyone else. Next match. Last match of the round 1, we have Lucas the Hulk Barbosa defeating Paulo Azambuja 4-0.
You can say his last name way better than I can.
And what we learned immediately, so for Hulk came in and big dogged this dude. Hulk was like
he had his hands behind his back and like put his head forehead to forehead, and I was like, oh, we're doing this match.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Hands down. Walking him down basically the entire time in the beginning, and we learned like pretty quickly that Paulo's a tough guy. Like he has a, like, we'll call it like maybe a little bit of like prison rules mentality when it comes to like wrestling. So Paulo was basically spamming a foot sweep, if you want to call it that, but
like a leg kick.
Yeah, it was a leg kick.
Spamming a leg kick a little bit there.
Yeah, it was a leg kick throughout the entire tournament. But yeah, Hulk dominated. You know, he's
wins it 4-0. Second round of the heavyweight tournament, we have Roberto Cyborg Abreu versus Nick Rodriguez. This is the match that a lot of us wanted to see going in this tournament. There were 2 big rematches that we could have saw, and that basically the tournament providers, or the guys at Kasai, set them up so we would guarantee to see them. We got to see Cyborg versus Nick Rodriguez here, and it was a draw. We saw a lot of activity from Rodriguez, super aggressive. Cyborg, like, you know,
Cyborg maintaining his composure. I was wondering about that. Was, you know, especially given how upset Cyborg was when he lost to Nicky in ADCC.
Yeah, he declined to do his 3rd place match then because he was so upset about the decision there. And so in the rematch, I was curious
wondering
to see like how, like, not how personally he would take it, but if he would do the same thing we saw him do in the Gordon Ryan rematch,
exactly,
where he was like really upset and like, nope, he maintained his composure. He was, you know, he was a dude.
He relied on his guard.
Yeah, it was there to compete,
which is exactly what you got to do. I mean, like everyone pretty much. It seems like everyone has gotten wise to trying to step to Nicky when it comes to stand up, man.
And we talked about this. Like, who at the heavyweight division in jiu-jitsu can take Nick Rodriguez down? And I made a list, and it was like, I don't know, maybe Gordon. Like, maybe Galvao.
Ali got him.
Never got him down.
Didn't control him.
Didn't control him down. But I'm saying, like, if Ali can't take you down, if Orlando Sanchez can't take you down, then, you know, maybe Galvao can take you down. Like, that list is very short.
Yep.
And so everyone's figured out, like, yeah, those 2 points are not worth it. So they pull on him. And so it was really interesting because I think we're going to see Nick Rodriguez's his guard passing
have to evolve
because he's gonna like everyone's gonna pull on him now, and he knows that like ADCC will be the only tournament where guys elect to wrestle with him, and even then in 2021, I would be somewhat surprised if you don't see at least one or two guys decide to pull on him.
Yeah.
So and that was here. Like we saw Cyborg's guard. He's able to like stop Rodriguez. In this match, this is where Cyborg gets cut.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, there's a scramble actually where Cyborg was coming up a little bit on like a single or a double.
Yeah, it was either that far side like knee pick or like when you kind of lift up on the leg and you're able to turn them back down. But so Rodriguez is coming out hard.
Nikki spins out hard and does the running man escape. And it's a little hard to tell when during that exchange it happened, but basically Cyborg's head opens up, and
everyone's like, "Oh, why'd you stop?" And then everyone looks at Cyborg's head, and it's like
it's gushing,
bleeding aggressively, and it's like, "Oh, that's a lot of blood."
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stoppage to try to get that bandaged up.
This match slowed down. Like kind of the pace of this match definitely slowed down a little bit, and it kind of like annoyed me because it was a really good match, and it was like you were seeing both guys open up a little bit and get ready to go, and they turned him into Orlando Sanchez 2.0, and eventually kind of stopped the bleeding. But it definitely toned the pace of the match down. Match ended up being a draw. Good match. Cyborg even talked about. He goes, "Yeah, we're gonna see each other again."
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure
this is not the last time, and it was just. I'm actually really happy that in the interview he talked about it a little bit and seemed almost like excited for seeing that match.
Yeah,
again.
he was
like,
super respectful and like you know.
The guys seem to bury the hatchet a little bit.
Yep.
At this, they seem like no bad blood. They're just
doing their thing,
there to compete, and it was cool to see.
So then we have Bruno Bastos winning by default because Vinny pulled out due to injury. So now this tournament has had has had to deal with two separate pullouts basically on the day.
Yeah.
You had Patrick Gaudio and then Vinny Magalhaes.
Yeah, but it's in the tournament though is a little different because it throws off the point system. So basically Bastos here gets points he gets a points win, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so instead of a draw versus Magalhaes, and so Bastos was probably the 8 seed in this, and Magalhaes is not the 8 seed in this. So it is curious, how that would have played out. But Bastos is able to get the points victory over Magalhaes because Magalhaes pulls out. This will come into play later when we get into the points for the end of the round robin stage.
So then we have Joao Gabriel Rocha defeating Paulo Azambuja by Anaconda choke.
This was a super close match.
Yep.
And then in the last 30 seconds, Joao Gabriel turns up the heat, and in like a rolling, he basically goes from a front headlock, he like snaps Paulo all the way down, and then he locks up the Anaconda, just does the roll through underneath, and as they're going down for the roll, he like locks up all the way and starts to squeeze, and I was like, he's not going to get that. And then I saw where his arm was, and I was like, oh, he's got like 30 seconds left here, and he wants the submission win. He may get that. And then Paulo taps, and it was like, man, Gabriel's hard to beat.
He is hard to beat. It was an awesome last minute win. Yeah, exactly. Because for the most part, I think it was tied up, right? Like going, I don't think he had points on him.
I don't recall what this was.
I'm pretty sure it was tied up.
I remember it being a really close match, and both guys turned up the pace in the last like minute. And I'm
pretty sure they were tied up. And
might have been like 2-2, I think.
It might have been, yeah. And this was a contested match too, because there was a moment where Paulo takes Joao Gabriel down off the mat, and Joao Gabriel is able to, get his legs down gently, like even on the replay, it looked totally fine, and he starts complaining about his leg basically, and
Jake tweaked his knee basically.
Yeah, it's hard to tell when during that exchange it happened, but I think he'd lost already. He'd done too much damage in terms of like crowd credibility after the pants grab thing, that like people were just basically like, he's like faking it or whatever. And because he also tried to get like the match to slow down and stop at that point, and thankfully the promoters and the refs were like, nah, like match on basically. So there wasn't much of a delay, but he ends up getting the win anyway, and whatever happens, gets 3 points. So now we have Lucas the Hulk Barbosa defeating Kyle Baim in the rematch of
BJJ Fanatics, the Black Belt GP.
Yep.
And this kind of went...
and this is a points win.
Yeah, this is a points win, 4 over Kyle. This went a little bit like we thought it would go, but we saw Hulk able to get in. It took Hulk longer to get in on Kyle than we'd kind of expected. We saw Hulk in the BJJ Fanatics event pretty much go through, positional exchanges on BAME for a good portion of that match, and then BAME was able to take the win in overtime at BJJ Fanatics. But in this one, BAME's guard was really on display. He'd sit, and then he would force guys to engage with him in the guard, and that's really where BAME makes a lot of his hay. He enters in the legs really well, and Hulk was, I'm going to say, more conservative in passing, but he definitely didn't want to get involved in the leg entanglements, and eventually he's able to get through BAME's guard and and win on points there. But it was a significantly different paced match than the Fanatics match.
I don't know if Hulk got past the guard.
Sorry, he got takedowns.
Yeah,
he got 2 takedowns on BAME. Sorry about that. I didn't get past the guard. And so that's the match, and it was honestly really interesting. It was a much closer match than I anticipated it being.
By points, but it was still pretty clear dominance by Hulk. There was no doubt about that.
But I mean, with considering the other match into play, where Hulk would have ran up a number of points on BAME, this match
that might have
only
been,
being a 4-0 match was surprising to me.
That other match probably went the way it did specifically because Kyle knew that it didn't matter.
He's playing to the rule set. I mean, he literally has a DVD about playing to that rule set. So it was interesting to me, at least. I kind of didn't consider that BAME would change his game up that much.
So now we go to round 3. Of the round robin tournament. We have Nicky Rodriguez defeating Bruno Bastos by heel hook.
Surprising.
So
we've seen him heel hook guys before. He has a heel hook win at Substars in the 4-man bracket there, but it was against a guy that was not as experienced as Bastos. Bastos being the half guard dude for a decade and a half now. To have Rodriguez go basically get down to the leg, drop from basically guard passing into the heel hook position and then turn it over. You look at Rodriguez's heel hook at Substars and the heel hook here, dude's gotten a lot better at leg locks. The control he has, the way he positions his hands, the way he turns his hips over, the way he controls the knee line. Rodriguez is learning heel hooks, and that is a somewhat scary thing.
Yeah. He basically, and the way it worked was Nicky controlled this match. He took Bruno down. He was in Bruno's guard, and then he basically launches back for that heel hook and gets it real quick. Mm-hmm.
And actually, Bastos retires after this match. Basically, he went, look, I'm done with adult competition. You're still going to see me in Masters up to Masters 7. I'll still be competing. But as far as these open adult tournaments, I'm going to retire from them. Thank you all for the support. He's a Dallas guy as well. So he was I think he's a little outside of Dallas. Yeah. But he's thank you very much. But, this is my retirement. It's been great competing for you. He didn't perform how I wanted to, but thank you very much for the support.
He gave a great speech.
It really was a great retirement speech.
Yep. And I think, the crowd definitely supported him. Next up, we have Cyborg winning by default versus Vinny Magalhaes.
Vinny Magalhaes.
And this is where the match points come into play, because just before this, we had Nicky Rod securing 3 match points with a submission, and he had 2 draws before that for a total of 5 match points. Mm-hmm. So Cyborg coming into this round had a points win and a draw, so he had 3 points coming into this. Cyborg gets another 2 points for the default win over Vinny Magalhaes.
And so now they're tied at 5.
They're tied at 5, and Cyborg now ostensibly has 2 victories because they count.
This is what we figured out because we couldn't hear the broadcast. So we basically went, okay, so Rodriguez and Cyborg both have 5 points. What do they do? But because Cyborg has more victories, in quotes, they're over the matches because he just took the victory over Magalhaes, didn't take a draw win like Rodriguez did. He moves on to the finals. And there was some discussion at the event with the promoters, and a lot of people online have talked about, that's kind of a weird way that Rodriguez kind of got screwed because he only could draw against the guy that everyone else was given a default victory over.
Right.
And there was a lot of discussion about this, do Cyborg and Rodriguez fight? Do you have a golden score match with those guys?
Right.
Or do you have... do you eliminate the guy that gets injured from the tournament, or do you give everyone the same amount of points?
So, to be fair, Kasai handles this the way every other round robin does, which is you give a points win to whoever would have been going against the person who forfeited.
Right.
And I think that's fine. We've had a long discussion about other ways that this could have been handled. Not for Kasai specifically, but for round robin formats. It's tough when you have a round robin like that and you have an early injury.
Yeah, it's tough. I think, honestly, it's weird because Magalhães had one match against Rodriguez where he drew. Magalhães is very hard to beat. Very few guys can beat him in the points, in the sub. And so because everyone basically gets a default win over him, it throws everything off because most guys would most likely draw against Magalhães.
So it throws things off, but I will say Cyborg kind of definitively, emphatically proved that he should have been in the final.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it is a little weird when you have two guys on the same side of the bracket that both have 5 points, and then one guy had to fight the guy that was injured, ended up injuring him and then taking him out of the tournament, and then the other person that has the same amount of points is given a default victory over the guy that the other person that's now the 1 seed, or that's now the other guy with tied points, drew against. Yeah. It's a little strange, and so there's definitely potentially a rule change going to go there, but it is pretty much how every other round robin tournament handles it. It's just, given how this tournament is set up, it was a little interesting, and it merits discussion.
Yep. So next up we have Kyle Bain defeating Paulo Azambuja by penalty, basically, by points. Mm-hmm. This, I think it was a stalling penalty.
I believe so. I was back and forth at this section of the tournament, kind of getting some other interviews backstage.
There was a moment actually during this match. This reminds me. Speaking of Paulo, kind of like prison rulesing. Did you see him low kick Kyle when Kyle was in like seated guard?
No.
So the crowd lost it when this happened. So Kyle is sitting down in guard, no longer standing, and Paulo throws a foot sweep, and it was just like, dude, what are you? You can't just fucking kick people like on the ground, like whatever. The rest didn't do anything. The crowd was like laughing and throwing jokes at, but Kyle won. He basically held him off, and there was enough stalling on Paulo's part that he got the penalty. So next match we have Lucas the Hulk Barbosa defeating Joao Gabriel Rocha 2-0.
Joao Gabriel in this match definitely looked like he had slowed down. He was significantly wrapped up at this point. His leg was wrapped up. He was visibly limping getting onto the mat. He looked injured, but he was still able to perform well against Hulk. Hulk
gets basically a takedown on him.
Yeah, but I mean, there's one moment where you see Joao Gabriel kind of limping, and then Hulk goes to like shoot in hard on the bad leg, and you see Joao Gabriel go and just beautiful sprawl out. It's like, man, even with a bad leg, like you're still really game. So it's like, the Hulk is still able to take the victory over Joao Gabriel, but it was definitely Joao Gabriel was moving significantly slower than we'd seen him move in prior matches, and I think he was super wrapped up for this match.
So Hulk easily wins his division with 6 match points.
Yeah. So now we got Cyborg versus Hulk and Nick Rodriguez versus Kyle Bain.
And Nick Rodriguez versus Kyle Bain was for 3rd place.
Yeah.
And Cyborg versus Hulk is the finals match. So in the 3rd place match, Nicky Rodriguez defeats Kyle Bain by points. He passes the guard at this point, which is goddamn impressive. Those 10th Planet guys do not have easy guards to pass. So I think that's a pretty good indicator that Nicky has been...
You saw him. Like, look, you see how Nick addressed the guard in this match and the rest of the tournament. Like, he's addressing the guard more systematically. You're seeing like where he's putting his feet, how he's jumping around. He still jumps around the guard a lot. And at the black belt level, he's having a little bit of problem with guys being able to follow him. I forget what match it was, but we saw him basically jump over and somebody followed him the entire way. And we're seeing more of that. But, his passing is getting better. It sucks for him that he's only going to be able to test it in competition against like top tier black belts now, but Bain is no joke. He's able to get around the guard. He almost gets the choke at one point here too. He gets on Bain's back and he throws the choke. And I talked to him a little bit about this backstage. And he's finishing and he feels Bain like just inching, and like making the space all the way. And it's like, man, the 10th Planet guys, they have really, really good back defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it was cool to hear Rodriguez talk about like, man, that dude was like, his back defense is really, really good. So he's not able to get the choke, but does get the points win over Kyle Bain. Nick Rodriguez takes 3rd place for Kasai Pro 7. in the finals match, we had Roberto Cyborg Abreu versus Lucas the Hulk Barbosa. And we were still kind of like wondering, okay, this is a really good matchup. This is the matchup that Emil picked, was most likely going to be the finals matchup depending on the bracketing. And it delivered.
Yeah, holy shit. Cyborg comes out explosively, and he talks about this in the interview that Maine had with him afterwards. But basically, Cyborg was saying about how he expected the Hulk to expect that Cyborg would come out slowly, because we've seen that with Cyborg. He will play patiently.
He kind of lures you into his pace, and he'll bring you down, and then he dictates the pace of the match, and he typically will bring you into a slower paced match.
Particularly with what I've noticed is with some of the people that have insanely good stand-up, he will play guard, and he will rely on his tornado guard, his tornado sweep. It's his signature. He's amazing. He can hit it on really high level, really heavy people. It's kind of amazing to watch it. It's
been amazing to watch for the past 10 years. Him how he's big. How are you doing that to him? And he inverts and just turns the guy over, and you're like, oh snap.
Yep.
He can do that against almost anyone. And so you see guys
lure him into that. We figured, maybe we'd see something like that. No. Hulk or Cyborg comes immediately after Hulk on the feet and has incredible success. I mean, at some point, Cyborg has a body lock.
They sprawl down to the ground, and Cyborg is able to get behind Hulk. Yeah. And as they both go to stand up, you see Cyborg go for he's going to suplex, and I was like, he's not going to do that. And then he lifts up and does the full belly to back over and makes the turn, because you can't technically suplex onto the head in Kasai, so he makes the turnover to make it a legal suplex. Brings Barbosa down. It was like, Cyborg still got it.
Bananas suplex.
It was.
I lost my shit.
When's the last time you've seen Hulk suplex like that?
I'm speechless. I've never seen him thrown around like that.
And Cyborg has the head wrap on. His head's bloody.
Ragdolled. And it wasn't like a freak takedown. Cyborg was dominant the whole way through. And
at the end of the match, he gets his back.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets the Hulk's back. He gets the hooks in with a couple seconds left. He has him flattened out, and you're like,
and he's threatening a choke.
Yes. Cyborg doesn't play. I sleep on Cyborg. I've picked against him at so many points in the last 18 months, and I've been wrong over and over and over again. And this tournament's another thing where it's I picked against him in the GP. I picked against him at Kasai.
The dude is unstoppable.
39 years old.
I think, basically only Gordon Ryan can stop him. But otherwise unstoppable. I can't believe he did that to Hulk. Hulk, recent world champion, and had it's incredible. It baffles me that he could do that to someone who normally, we see Hulk
impose a game.
Yeah.
So in this tournament, impose a game against really good black belts, and Cyborg just kind of immediately dictates the pace of the match and kind of puts on his heels, but gets Hulk reacting, and Cyborg just kind of continues. It's a 6-minute match.
Yeah,
those 6-minute matches bring action like this, and this finals match is definitely one you should watch. I enjoyed the hell out of this. There's that highlight going around that I keep watching, because you don't see heavyweights get suplexed like that. Especially at the level that Barbosa and Cyborg.
In general, we don't see suplexes like this much. It's a handful of times a year that we see a true suplex. Usually, when I see people getting a body lock from behind while standing, the first thought in my mind is please be a suplex, please be a suplex, and it never happens. And then we see it in the finals at the Kasai heavyweight tournament with Cyborg and Hulk. It's just amazing. Really, really exciting match. Definitely go.
Definitely go back and watch it. It was fun. Let's talk about some of the super fights in here. So we're going to start. We got Dante Leon versus Renato Canuto, the rematch. We got John Holmes versus Pedro Rocha, and we got Raquel Canuto versus Gabby McComb, which we're going to talk about first.
God. I mean, Dante Leon versus Renato
This
Canuto.
is the rematch. So they met at Kasai Pro. I mean, this wrong. 5, I think.
I can't remember which one. It was one of the ones that I couldn't cover.
And it was fire. And it was an awesome, super close match. And Canuto took it. I think Canuto took it 4-5 or 5-4.
I don't know what the points were. I know it was controversial.
It's controversial, and it was very
I know
close.
that both of these guys are two. If I had a list of fighters that Grappling Rewind recommends, these two guys would be on it, hands down. These guys are just super entertaining. I more or less can't think of times seriously when either of them have been in something that has not been entertaining. I think, aside from the Mateus Lutis, Dante Leon, whatever the hell that weird match was.
That was a little weird. Like, that's the one match I can point to that's like, eh.
But that's not really a result of the fighters, right? Like, that's just weirdness on the match itself.
Yeah.
But these guys are amazing. This match, on paper, is so hype. It's so amazing, and it delivered.
Let's talk about the sub attempt that Dante had on Canuto. So they go down. Canuto basically, Dante dictates a leg entanglement and then goes for an outside heel hook. Canuto rolls. Dante changes it, goes to the knee bar heel hook combo.
Oh,
and
my
then
sweet Jesus!
You were mat side for this. I
Yeah.
was at I was off the corner, probably like 20 feet, watching this, and I see Dante roll up for the heel hook, change the knee bar to like a belly up knee bar, and you see you see Canuto's calf like twisted sideways. I'm like, okay, cool. He's about to break his leg. This is gonna be weird to watch, and Canuto just turns, boom, makes the angle, and gets out.
The leg was hyperextended.
Dude, it was nasty. And then I was like, okay, cool, he's going to be limping, because they immediately get up again, and you see Canuto, fine.
Totally fine.
And I was like, oh, he just totally ate that heel hook and
knee bar, yeah.
knee bar combo, and he was fine.
Yep.
And like, he legitimately didn't just gut it out. He just used technique. He just had the flexibility to like deal with that. And like at a lower level, if
that would have been a blowout.
Canuto
That would have been a knee blowout.
wasn't as good and wasn't as trained and wasn't as perfect in his positioning, the leg would have blown apart.
Yeah.
And he was fine. And that was like, okay, that's why this match is so good, because both these dudes are that good.
I mean, there was also Dante. That wasn't the only sub attempt. Like Dante had Dante had a really nasty choke. I'm trying to remember which one it was. If it was a guillotine or Darce at one point.
Gets the neck one point.
Yeah, because I remember Canuto. I remember looking at it and being like, that looks tight.
See, this is a match I've only watched this live. I don't have good notes on it because we just got back from Dallas, and then I went to work all day.
This is a match to absolutely go back and watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
Go back and watch the first match and go back and watch this match, because you get to see how two guys match up in the same rule set in an exciting way both times, and you see a different victor, and you see two guys that really match up very, very well against each other, and you see how they change their game plan to kind of modulate from one match to the other match,
Yep. It's outstanding.
This is a match I'm going to see. We're going to see
In fact, Rewind recommends for sure.
Yeah, this is a match we're going to see the rubber matchup, because now Canuto's taken one, Dante's taken one. We are going to see the third match on this one at the black belt level. Definitely worth it. Let's talk about John Combs versus Pedro Rocha.
Another outstanding match.
So these two dudes are both guillotine guys. We've covered John Combs before on ADCC, on Trials. Have a cool interview with him that we're going to bring out this week on the Grappling Rewind YouTube page. So at one point, Pedro Rocha has a guillotine on Combs, and it's deep, and Combs addresses it and deals with it. And these guys basically trade back and forth in guillotines. And one of the guillotines, John gets super deep, and he gets it arm in. I was like, okay, arm in's really hard to finish, especially on a guillotine guy. And then you see Combs shift the angle. He talks about this little in our interview, and you see him get up, and basically he talks about the adjustments he makes with his hand and body, turns the angle, and he knows it's in, and he squeezes, and he's able to get the tap.
Yeah.
Really, really great finish. And it was really cool to actually get a chance to talk to him after this, because I'm a guillotine guy. I love to like talk to people who are also really, really good at the high level against guillotines, and to hit it on another guy that is a guillotine guy is really cool. The technique's good. From a tactical perspective, go back and watch how John Combs finishes.
There was also really, really great wrestling in this match, especially on John Combs' part. Like, outstanding. So, throughout the tournament, actually, or more specifically, a lot of this, the super fights and prelims had a fair deal of really, really awesome wrestling, but this match stood out as well. Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Raquel Canuto defeating Gabby McComb by rear naked choke as another super fight. This was a great match. Really awesome because Raquel and Hanato are married, and Hanato was in the cornering her.
2 matches before,
they were cornering each other. Actually,
2 matches before he had to go fight Dante.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's always crazy when you see someone cornering like their spouse right before they have to fight. And
it wasn't. Great. There was also the tournament rounds in between, so there was a fair amount of time.
There was not more than 3 matches between them. I don't think.
No, there was a whole round between them. I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was the. Was it the second round?
Yeah, there was a fair amount of time, but still, it was dope. The same event, you had these guys cornering each other, and it was outstanding. Basically, Raquel is able to get the back and finish a rear naked choke in really dramatic fashion. But otherwise, beforehand, it was a very contested, very close match. And I don't think... I'm pretty sure that Raquel might have had 1 point up before she got the submission, but it was still really, really close. So great main card event. Want to go to the prelims? Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go to the prelim matches. Read them through, Emil. We'll stop at a couple matches that we want to talk about.
We have Alex Martins defeating Michael Foster 11-0. Rafael Formiga Barbosa defeating Rafael Lang.
Formiga looks good. Again, I'm
by
curious.
Points, by the way.
Yeah, by points. We will probably see him again on the Fight to Win. He had the title. He moved weight class. I don't think he has the title anymore. Wouldn't surprise me to see him fight for a title soon, for Fight to Win again. We cover him not infrequently. Really great grappler.
Yeah, outstanding. And then we have Cody Steele defeating Cameron Couch 8-4. This was an awesome match. Cody Steele is great. We didn't know that much about Cameron, but we actually saw him the morning of. Maine and I went to an open mat with a few of the folks from Kasai and Jay and Nicky Rod
got
were there
a
as well.
chance to see him in the morning of, and I was like, oh, that's the guy fighting Cody Steele. I was like, really?
Yep.
Interesting. And apparently he was a D1 wrestler, and that was on display immediately. So this match starts, and Cameron immediately goes for a blast double on Cody and almost takes him to the commentary booth.
These aren't, and the takedowns in this match are not the jiu-jitsu trip, fall, whatever, controlled fall. These are wrestling style. Lift you up like Khabib Airlines style, feet to the ceiling
both
throws.
These guys wrestled.
Yeah.
And that was evident because you saw super aggressive, dynamic takedowns. At one point, Cody Steele gets a body lock on Cameron. And you see him almost go for the suplex. And I talked to him at the end of it. He goes, yeah, and the rules told us we couldn't suplex. And so I didn't want to get DQ'd. So I went for he goes lift and he turns out the leg and he drops to the side. And that's where he scores his points. Go back and watch this match. This is what jiu-jitsu wrestling should look like, which is actual wrestling.
Right.
And both these dudes are coming for blood. Steele had to basically pull it out at the end. I think he was down at the beginning of this match, and he had to come back.
He was down in the beginning.
He was down by a takedown, and then he comes back and was able to get it done 8-4. Watch this match.
Yep.
This is a fun match. You're going to see more from Cody Steele. We have not seen a lot from Cameron Couch. He's been on Kasai before, and I assume that we're going to see him perform again because both these dudes bring action. Next match, we have Igor Paiva defeating Andre Gomes via decision. I think this is the only decision on the card.
Yeah, yep, it was. And I think it might have been the only... Yeah, I think... So you need a golden score in order to get a decision.
Yeah. So basically they go regulation, and then if there's no win in regulation, then they go to golden score. If there's no win in golden score, then you go to decision. Which
this is the only one on the entire card.
Which speaks to the act, speaks to I honestly, the more I watch jiu-jitsu, the more I'm cool with points and decision. It's I like that there's point wins.
Next up, we have Vinicius Agudo defeating Diego Santana 3-0. Keisha McKenzie defeating Erica Barnes 5-3. Anthony Krantz defeating Kevin Holland by penalty.
Yep. 3-3. Kevin Holland talked to the ref a little bit and got a penalty. If you ever watch a Kevin Holland fight in the UFC, or you watch him fight on Onnit or any other super fight, that dude talks the entire time, and he gets a penalty for it this time, and that's where he's able to take the Anthony takes the win off that. Really contested match back and forth, but
pretty good match, yeah.
Yeah.
Samuel Nagai defeats Damian Orende by triangle. Leonardo Machado defeats Mike Anderson by paper cutter choke.
I like that they had gi and no gi matches on this. I mean, there was no gi matches on the main card, but I do like that Kasai mixes them in, so it's not just only no gi events. It gives gi guys a chance to showcase the gi and the rest of jiu-jitsu.
Michael Esquivel defeats Benjamin Anunciado by rear naked choke. Andrew Tackett defeats Jeremiah Mendez by rear naked choke. This was probably the fastest submission of the tournament. I think this happened in the first minute.
Something like that. It was quick. I don't know if it was the fastest, but it was definitely, I think, the first minute and a half at least. Andrew fights out a nice guillotine. Eventually, he's able to get the back of Jeremiah, and he locks up rear naked choke. And then I talked to him at the end of. We did an interview with him. It'll come out this week, and I talked to him about how he finishes that. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I lock up with the rear naked choke." And then I wait, and then I get my head involved, and then I start squeezing. Basically, I don't start squeezing until we've settled the position enough because I don't want to burn my arms out. And I was and he approached it from a really systematic way, and I went, oh, you're going to be crazy good because you have this systematic way that you finish. You don't try to squeeze like, nope, I do this and I do this, and he stepped me through the process during the interview, and it was really, really interesting to hear him. And basically, I'll talk about him and his brother training and him and Cody training, and what their kind of pathway is and how they prepared for it. I was pleased with the interview. I was like when guys give me technical pieces during interviews, so this is good. Fast submission, really, really nice rear naked choke.
Stephen Hall defeats James Markey by triangle choke. Sal Martinez defeats Trey Warren 10-0 on points. And then the first of the prelim matches, we have Vernon Lewis defeating Thomas Gentile 9-2.
I think that was it was listed first, but I think it actually happened like third or second match. Vernon comes out super aggressively and basically just wrestles, gets the back. He's super aggressive the entire time. Is that this match?
That's the first one.
Okay.
That's the first match.
That was the second match. I don't know. So it was a really good match. I enjoyed it. The whole card was great. That's all we got for results. Like, let's talk about a little about the event. It was super fun, and I am still really, really tired. We flew out. Emil and I flew out on a Friday afternoon after we both worked. We got in at like almost midnight to the hotel. We then got up, went to an open mat in the morning, did a couple stuff like on the back end for Grappling Rewind during the day, immediately went and got barbecue after open mat, which made us both super lethargic and tired.
It was amazing though. Holy
It was really
shit.
good. Texas barbecue
And then
is no joke.
we went down basically to the bomb factory to start setting up. And yeah,
We left the bomb factory, I want to say at like 1:15 in the morning.
Yeah, something like that.
Because I have a picture on my phone right as we're leaving that I'll probably post up there. It was on our story a couple days ago, but that was like, that photo says at 1:09 in the morning. And then we went and got dinner.
Yeah.
And then we got to the hotel, and then we did the calculation and went, we have to leave the hotel at 5:30 in the morning. So we have 2 hours to sleep.
Yeah, 2 or 3 hours. So it was definitely, but it was totally worth it. I mean, like,
Oh my God, yeah.
like especially being mat side, like seeing the corners, you get to see stuff like you don't always get to see the corners in the feed, and so being there, seeing, for example, I had no idea that Vinny Magalhaes was going to be cornering Kyle Bain, for example.
Yeah, and Jared Labuto was going to be cornering a quarter of the card.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. So Jared Labuto is.
Would you call him Jared Labuto?
Labuto.
J-Reg Labuto.
J. Reg Labuto.
Yeah.
Got it. Jay was outstanding, and like he ended up cornering, as Maine said, like a third of the card.
He cornered Dante. He cornered Nick for all his matches. He cornered, I want to say 2 or 3 other guys.
Well, yeah, I was surprised to see Dante, but yeah, they seemed to know each other quite well, and he was giving really great advice, and Dante was, obviously is super talented, but like I think they jived really well.
Yeah, it was really cool to hear like Jay talk about like where Dante should wrestle, where he should hold position, and like it's always really cool to hear a really good coach talk to a really good fighter, because the type of information that they provide them is really interesting. Like, he would tell Dante when he was up on points, and then like how much time was left, but he'd say it in a way that he'd like repeat it, and like make sure Dante got the information, and then he'd tell him to like watch out for certain things, but wouldn't be coaching him through anything. He would just basically be giving him ideas and giving him information about the match so that Dante was definitely aware of it.
So another interesting like corner combo was actually seeing Andre Galvao corner for the Hulk, and I was surprised watching him because Andre can be intense when he wants to, but when he's cornering, at least in this case, super polite, like unbelievably almost like humble. Like when he needed something clarified by a ref, he's like, "Excuse me, professor, like I have this question here." Afterwards, after the finals, Hulk obviously had a bad loss, that was, I think if that had happened to me in training, I would feel bad, let alone like,
in the finals of a paid tournament,
right,
on a big stage.
And, Galvao was hanging with him like on the corner of the mat, like seemed totally cool, like it was just.
Yeah, it was Galvao and Lucas Pinheiro who were cornering him, and we actually had to roll with
Lucas. That's right.
I got to roll with Lucas Pinheiro in the morning, and we walked
How'd that go, man?
Dude, I recognized him. I was like, is that? I was like, no, because I thought he was at Atos HQ. I didn't think. I was like, I forgot he runs the Dallas Atos, and we roll, and I was like, oh, and he just like casually casually beats my ass.
Yep.
In like the nicest way possible, just like, subs me here, sleeps me here. And I was just like, I can't get anything. We weren't like training hard at all. We were like moving, and he was rolling with me. And I just couldn't get anything going. And after I was like, hey, what's your last name? He goes, oh, Panera. I was like, oh, cool, that's Lucas Panera. Good to know. Like that makes this round makes a lot more sense. But he was cornering as well. We saw Kyle Baim and Vinny cornering each other.
Yep.
And you didn't know that Vinny was 10th Planet as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they trained together. Actually, it was funny. They both talked about in interviews, basically having trained with each other like the week before. And I was like, that's really interesting. The guys would train together like that close to an event. But I assume they're both big 10th Planet heavyweights. Like,
you might as well.
That makes sense that you're going to get really good training out of the guy.
Yeah.
And so even though you might face him, you're on the same team. You guys train together anyway. Normally, why would you break that up? But it was interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was fascinating to watch and to see that live, see those dynamics live. The crowd was great too. They were super into it. Obviously, there was a bunch of people from Dallas on the card, which helps. When you have
the local energy. You get the local
Joao
fighters.
Gabriel. You got
Pedro
Brito
Rocha.
Bastos. Yeah.
It was a really, really good event. I don't have enough good things to say about it. It was, I will go to another Kasai and enjoy it. Again, like we always say, if you ever have an opportunity to go to jiu-jitsu events, go to them. They're worth it live. They are fun. You get to see part of the community. You get to see like the fun part of the community, which is everyone gets together and like enjoys jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it was a ton of fun. You got any other closing thoughts, Emil?
No, man. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. I just want to echo that.
That's awesome. So that does it for our recap of Kasai Pro 7. Move to the next one. So on to our recap of Finishers 11. This one was a quintet style event that I actually previewed incorrectly last week because I didn't realize that there were 6 teams instead of the standard 4 or 8 quintet teams. So basically for this we had Team Show the Art, give me that name, Emil.
Uchiha Clan.
We had Team 10th Planet Finishers, Team Henzo Gracie, and Team 10th Planet Montreal, and Team The Other Guys. So given that this happened on Sunday, and I spent a large portion of Sunday sleeping, I've only got a chance to watch like the finals match of this. I'm going to go through and basically watch the rest of the event throughout the week, but I don't want to just kind of read it through a bunch of names. So let's talk about the finals match. In the finals match, we had Team 10th Planet Finishers versus Team Henzo Gracie. Both were seeded 1 and 2, and both had buys in the first round, but they were 2 of the most stacked teams on the tournament. We had it all come down to a EBI style overtime.
So, we can go through the finals real quick. So we have Chris Sodbanow from Team Henzo Gracie defeating Gabriel Tejada by rear naked choke. Chris Sodbanow versus Anthony Burchak, with Burchak winning by rear naked choke. Fabian Ramirez drawing Anthony Burchak from 10th Planet. Tony Bergamo versus Zach Maslany. Maslany subs Bergamo by straight ankle lock. Frank Rosenthal submitting Zach Maslany by armbar. And then Frank Rosenthal drawing with Ray De Leon. Eric Sherman drawing with Ricky Lule, tying them up at the very end. And both teams, I guess, putting forward one person to represent them in the overall team overtime.
So basically this comes down to Tony Bergamo, I cannot pronounce his last name, Tony versus Zach Maslany, and they're in the overtime. Maslany takes the back. Maslany is able to spin forward with the head and arm triangle and able to keep his head down, keeps adjusting, and keeps the position for a long time. Mounts, is able to step over eventually to get the head, get the arm triangle fully locked in.
It was a cool combination because we saw Tony trying to defend while Zach's on his back. He has his arm trying to defend to prevent Zach's from closing to finish the choke.
Yeah.
And Zach uses that grip to set up the arm triangle. So it was really, really sneaky. Zach is able to start working his way around to get to mount, and by the time Tony realizes that it's too late, Zach already has his head in the right position, and all he has to do...
He traps that arm up.
He traps the arm up, and it's not in a full choking position, but Zach is patient.
Yeah.
He knows that all he needs to do is just.
And Zach's a guy who's known for the arm triangle.
Also, like, that defense is exhausting. Like, your arm burns out so
your arm
quickly.
is super high, and so you're in a super weak place to pull everything back in. You can't engage like the core muscles or any sort of like the lat muscles very well because you're up, and so you've got to pull everything back down. You have a guy that's just going to sit there and hold the head and pressure and keep forcing you to close. You're going to have to keep pulling against with your weak
and you're fighting against like a guy's entire like core and hips and like
it's a super bad position to fight from.
Terrible.
He just walks it, and gets the sub, and he wins it for 10th Planet Finishers. And after that, he announces his retirement. We talked about it a little bit in the news section, but to have him retire like that after a big win like that, after a big tournament like that, after all he's done, was a pretty cool moment.
And let's talk about the commentator, Jay Legrabuto.
Dude, would you call him again?
Jay Legrabuto.
Reg Labuto.
I don't know what you... Anyway.
All right. Dude, Jay...
I'm allowed to mess names up occasionally.
That's Zach's not here right now, so...
So, Jay, we were hanging with Jay in Dallas at Kasai Pro 7. Jay catches a 6 a.m. flight, flies to the East Coast, catches it, then has to drive out like an hour and a half.
Hour and a half from the Philadelphia airport up to Allentown where this event happened. Does commentary. I was like, Jay, I don't know how.
Like a 5.5 hour event.
Dude, I don't know how he did it. I talked to Jay today a little bit. I was like, Jay, how'd you do it? He goes, it's just, man, it's awesome. I love it. And I was like, I don't know, because I was fried today.
I was fried. Yeah,
like me and I both went to work today. And I was like, are you dying today? Like, I'm having a rough day too. Yeah. And it's like a day after. So props to Jay, man. Again, always great commentary. Again, and thanks a lot to Laura Kent, My MMA News, for where we're getting the results from. Laura always does a great job for all of these. Highly recommend that you basically, honestly, pull up the event, watch the event with the results next to it. It makes it a lot easier to follow, and Laura always does a great job putting these results together, and she's basically the go-to whenever we cover a finishers event or a lot of the East Coast events she has results for. Big thanks to her for that. It's always great to basically use her as a resource for these.
Yep.
Anything else on this one?
That's it.
All right, let's do it. Also this weekend, Third Coast Grappling had its third qualifier, and basically what this was a brown belt qualifier for the men and for the women, and the winner of this gets a slot at the big Third Coast Grappling 4 not main event, the main card, which is, if you've seen that card, that's a huge deal.
It's stacked, yeah.
Dude, it's stacked head to toe.
Yeah.
It's just a giant, like, you look at the list and like, oh, getting the main card slot here is career changing.
Yeah.
So these people were fighting hard. Again, I have not got a chance to see a lot of these matches. It is up for free on YouTube. Gonna go watch it this week. Give me something to do. I'm editing, which is great. On the men's side of the bracket, we have Alex Lane taking the victory over Ricky Rivas. And on the women's side of the bracket, we have Alana Holy taking the victory over Cassidy Welch. I think I got her name right. Alana is actually Jordan Holy's wife. So the Holy Grail team coming in strong there. They have a pretty big presence on Third Coast. I saw them last Third Coast, and so it's cool to see them both actually getting a main card slot here. Super excited to watch more of this event, but I don't want to basically just run through a bunch of results for something we have not got a chance to break down yet because we were out traveling. Anything else, Emil?
No.
All right.
As always, Maine has talked about this before, but just anytime a promotion, a big professional promotion gives people the opportunity to qualify in, that's always great.
It's a huge deal. It's why we try to cover them, when we're able to, because it allows you as a regular competitor to like qualify for one of these or get into one of these.
You don't need to know someone. You don't need to come from one of the top tier gyms. You can prove yourself if you're talented enough.
Yeah, in a qualifier event. We've seen a lot of guys come from the qualifier events, from the Kasais, from the Third Coast, like people that we were less familiar with. It's a really good bar for high level talent to win, because you got to win a tournament. And you got to win a pretty stacked tournament because you're getting on a pro event and getting a big slot on a main card of a pro event. And so the talent kind of comes out of the woodwork, and it exposes us to a lot of people that we were not as familiar with before. So I absolutely love qualifiers from like a scouting perspective. And so we try to support them. I wish we had more, I had a chance to watch more match footage before the show here, but go and watch it because they are always really, really good microcosms for talent. So moving into the preview section, we're going to talk about who's number one, a stacked event on February 8th on Flow Grappling. Starts at 7 p.m. at Costa Mesa, California. It is main evented by number one ranked in the gi fighter, Nicholas Margali versus number 4, Victor Hugo. This is for the black belt ultra heavyweight. They have the names of all the divisions listed in here, so that's where all the rankings come from. I love that Flo is doing more rankings because guys, actually we had John Combs at Kasai talk about wanting to fight guys in the rankings, and it's like, that's how you make it a legitimate sport. So this is the Who's Number 1 event, and we're basically trying to take that number 1 spot. Guys are trying to move around the rankings, and I am a super fan of the concept.
Next up, we have Roberto Jimenez.
Let's not gloss over this. This is an extremely difficult match for Hugo, to put it kind of lightly, you know.
Yeah, dog. Margali's got this.
Margali's really, really hard to beat. I mean, he's beatable in the gi. Like,
it's more like beatable. Like, beatable is not even the way to think about it. It's like, can you stop him from choking you unconscious?
Yeah, like and that's the thing. It's like, you can possibly, Margali's not unbeatable. In 2018, he took some losses. Like, he takes losses from time to time. But usually, we talk about this crazy stat. In 2018, if he beats you, he submitted you. There's not another...
in majors and the worlds.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
There is not another high-level guy that we talk about being, Bryce has the number 1 ranking, more dangerous in the gi. Like,
yeah, he's the most dangerous.
He's beatable.
Hands down. He's the most dangerous jiu-jitsu player, period.
But, like, he will usually sub everyone. And so Victor Hugo has a tough matchup again. But now, Victor Hugo took No-Gi Worlds. He took the championship over Cyborg via knee bar. Like, he has the tools to beat the monsters. But, man, in the gi... Margali is a tough dude to fight.
Yep, I got Margali on that.
Next match, we have Roberto Jimenez ranked number... Oh, no, sorry, new black belt, no ranking.
Yep.
Versus number 2, Keenan Cornelius, black belt heavyweight. Again, another really tough matchup for Jimenez. We've seen Jimenez look really good on Third Coast in majors. He took No-Gi Worlds,
I would say
brown belt in the absolute division, I believe. Might have been weight. I think it was absolute. Newly promoted black belt, looking to make a name, but, dude... Keenan is hard to beat in the gi.
Yeah, we've also seen Keenan absolutely dismantle people that are not like more or less the best in the world.
We saw him outpoint Muhammad Ali handily, end up on his back and like trying to finish him at Europeans, a week ago?
Yeah, we also saw him beat Margali, which is an accomplishment in its own right.
Like, man, this is a tough matchup for Roberto. Again, Roberto's a crafty guy. He starts really fast, but I think Keenan, we've heard Keenan talk about on Matt Burn, like how he's faced guys like Margali that are going to start really, really aggressive and fast. Or Ali, and like specifically what his game plan was going into those. And I think he's going to have a really good game plan versus Jimenez. I feel like he's going to lock him down very quickly with the gi and force him to like fight out of the worm guard. I see Keenan coming up for the sweep, getting the pass, keeping those lapel grips, and a really similar match to what we saw versus Ali is really what I foresee here. Like, he's going to control, he's going to use well. I think Roberto being a little bit smaller than Ali is going to give Keenan a little bit more of a scramble, but because Roberto doesn't have as much experience at the black belt level versus guys like Keenan, I feel like he's going to struggle there.
You're talking way too much, man. Keenan by sub.
All right, Keenan by sub. That's honestly a pretty decent bet to hedge. Next matchup, so this is the cool as well. We have Dream Art versus Atos. This is very similar to what we were going to have probably like a year ago or 8 months ago. They were trying to set up the GFT versus Atos event.
Right.
And that kind of fell through at the last minute, and looks like they're doing it again here.
It's probably a lot easier with the colored belts, like to get people's schedules to line up.
Yeah,
you know, like
also like they have guys that are super, super close in ranking here.
Right.
And I think that's a really, really good thing because guys are looking to fight up in the rankings, and so they're willing to come over Costa Mesa and fight for it.
Yeah, this is a great way to incentivize people to, to be more active, to try to, especially younger, hungrier people to punch up and try to move their way up the rankings. So at brown belt, 96 kilograms, we have number 2 super heavy Anderson Muniz versus number 3 medium heavy Connor DeAngelis.
Dude, Anderson Muniz is the guy we saw at Spider, isn't he?
I believe so.
I think so. I think that's Muniz.
I think you're right.
Elfo problems.
Like, dude,
I think that's who that is.
Yeah.
Again, see, this is where on the grappling when we have a little bit of failings, we don't cover the lower colored belts as much. So I'm really familiar with a lot of the black belts at the high level right now, but a lot of the guys coming up, I try to keep tabs on. This is why I'm really happy to bring Zach on, because Zach is kind of keeping a better view on some of the lower belts coming up, and so hopefully will help us fill that kind of gap that we have.
I think you're right, which means that, he's Anderson Muniz is definitely
ranked number 2, which makes sense. Connor DeAngelis ranked number 3, so that would be a really good fight, but man, Muniz has looked good recently in all the stuff we've seen him in.
Next up, we have purple belt medium heavyweight number 3, Michael Galvao versus number 4 medium heavy Mateus Rodriguez.
Dude, Michael Galvao is the guy that everyone's talking about. It's like
I've heard about him too. I think you might have told me about him.
I heard about him as a blue belt, like beating black belts in the gi. Like
this is like
that. It's the new generation.
It's a new.
This is why
this is a new normal, man.
This is why, as a hobbyist, you're never gonna win a world title because kids like Michael Galvao exist. It's like good luck. That guy's in your division.
We've seen it enough. Like we've talked about already to more or less, like I don't want to call them children, but like very young phenoms, like
children, people that are not adults.
Actually, we're about to talk about
next match.
Speaking of which, Ty Rotolo, right? We talked about Andrew Tackett already
him or
today.
His brother this weekend choke out an adult black belt. They're bigger than them.
I thought it was Ty.
One of the brothers this weekend went to some like tournament and then won it. And there's a video of him Darce choking
like 220-pound black belt or something like that.
Unconscious, a grown man quickly.
Yeah.
And like dominate. Like that's the level we're fighting at now. So purple belt lightweight match number 1, Jonathan Marcus versus Ty Rotolo, who is unranked because he's newly promoted. That's a fire match.
Yeah.
So moving on to the brown belts, we have number 2. Oh man, these names are gonna kill me.
Number 3, Lucas Protasio versus number 1, Andy Murasaki. Sorry. That's brown belt lightweight. Number 1, Jessa Khan versus Vicky Hoang at brown belt roosterweight.
That is a really good match. Khan is an AOJ brown belt who we've seen rise up the ranks, has looked really, really good. We have not got a chance to cover her, aside from I think a couple fight to wins, but she has been tearing up the competition scene at blue and purple belt through the gi.
And then at brown belt light featherweight, we have number 1, Maram Alves versus number 3, Josh Cisneros. Oh, Josh of the TP choke from last year. Josh is dope, man.
Oh yeah,
he's really good.
We haven't seen him as much this year on Fight to Win, but he's the guy that has that highlight reel, like 20-second TP choke, where he just like jumped the TP choke in Fight to Win, and then put his opponent to sleep in like 12 seconds or something.
12 seconds, yeah.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah, and also like since then has been on a tear. Dude, obviously, clearly he's number 3 as a brown belt, which is fucking nuts.
Yeah, I've been watching him a little bit, and he's every IBJJF I see him at, he's winning. I don't know if I've seen him take second or third. He's like always posing with like this medal, this medal, this medal, this medal. So he is on a tear. He's definitely going to come up. These are some really good matches. You want to keep going down, or you want to just wrap it up?
Yeah, we'll just round it out. There's a bunch of purple belts as well, and blue belts even. So
we got Andrew Tackett on this one versus Dominic Mead at a 160-pound blue belt juvenile match. That'll be really fun. So I talked to Andrew a little bit about this match during the interview. He says never faced the guy before, but looks good. This is actually in the gi.
Interesting,
so
yeah.
Andrew's guy that
I don't think I've
both.
seen the Tackett brothers in the gi before.
I think I have, but it has been a little bit. I don't recall the last time it would have been, but yeah, super exciting.
It's amazing to see, like, you know, we're at a place now where professionally we see these kids, like, you know, and they're whooping ass, as Maine says. Maine likes to keep it real, likes to crush dreams for any hobbyists listening out there.
No, because I've been fighting kids in my division for years, and they beat that ass. Like, this is just the next generation of guys that are, like, making 145 as they go to become adult weight. They're just beating me at tournaments, and it's great to see. I love watching the next generation of talent, like, rise above and just be monsters, because high-level jiu-jitsu guys are fun to watch.
Yeah.
And these guys all in this card are super hungry to rise up the ranks and, like, take that number 1 spot on who's number 1. Like, I love the name of the event. It's a really great, you know, event to showcase that talent. It reminds me of the Royal Invitational, which is that invitational they run every 2 years, and they usually mix the weight class a little bit, and it showcases a lot of the lower belts at the World Championship. Basically, they perform at the World Championship. This is the same thing, and we're hopefully going to see more of them.
I'm happy that, also, I think you don't give us enough credit here. We recognize a number of these names here.
Yeah, but recognizing some names, like remembering 1 or 2 matches versus, you know.
I mean, that's something.
It is something.
That's something.
So, super excited for this event. February 8th, Costa Mesa, California, starts at 7 p.m. on Flow Grappling. All right, so moving into Quintet Bellum 3. This event is, another Quintet-style event. We love Quintet-style events because they bring a lot of action.
I love that they're starting to proliferate now.
Right? The team battle format is alive and well. And so just came across this event. It's being streamed on BJJ Fanatics.
Yeah.
Which I love that BJJ Fanatics is starting to expand and like do more events and like get into streaming and get into more like professional event setups. So where do you want to start? Which team do you want to start with?
We'll start off with Sister Acosta Jiu-Jitsu. These are 6-man teams.
Which is a little
4
different.
Teams. Yep.
I don't know if it's an alternate or if they're doing 6-man teams.
I like it.
Yeah.
We have Pedro Veras, Fausto Godoy, Rodrigo Gortari, Igor Mokabir, Fabricio Barabati, Shaquille Samadi.
So that's Team Sister Acosta. What next? Team 10th Planet Montreal?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have Corey Guittard. We have Francis Saint Amar. We have George Tassad. I can never pronounce George's last name. Sadas. James Banville, Renee Souza, and Alex Savard. We have Team Detroit Jiu-Jitsu, headed by David Garmo of Detroit Jiu-Jitsu.
We have Khalil Fadlala, Muhammad Al-Hamadi, Muhammad Habala, David Gonzalez, and John Toth. And
then the final team, we have Team TriStar. It's getting me a little bit. Ethan Krellenstein.
Iman Zahabi.
Frost's brother.
Yep. Oliver Taza, Javad Majoub, Pierre-Oliver Leclerc, and Gino Poirier. That's a stacked team.
That team is going to be
That's the team to beat.
Yeah, because you have Ethan, you have Taza. You have 2 80cc guys.
So Ethan, to remind everybody, to remind our listeners, won the West Coast Trials. I can't remember if it was East Coast or West Coast Trials.
It was East Coast Trials.
East Coast Trials.
Nikki won the West Coast Trials at the weight.
Ethan won East Coast Trials, submitted his entire way through the tournament, including in the finals Keith Krikorian.
Yeah, who's notoriously hard to sub.
Not just hard to sub, a fucking amazing grappler in his own right.
Yeah.
Ethan is on a different level. And I'm fairly certain
Taza is also 80cc level.
We've covered Pierre Oliver Leclerc before, and Faraz's brother can fucking grapple. Yeah. Like, Zahabi is going to come in there and wreck house. That's a brutal team. I mean, I would put Ethan as dangerous enough to potentially run through an entire team.
It's possible.
If he can submit his way through East Coast Trials of ADCC, there's the potential for him to literally run through an entire team.
My question is bringing something similar to what we saw in Connectic, where you get a guy like Lachlan, who's another 80cc level guy that can contend at that level that runs through an entire team. Like, Ethan really has the potential to do that. Again, there's some tough guys in the other teams, but we have seen Ethan, and he's coming off of that Modelfo camp.
Yeah.
He did have to pull out of the 10 Planet Finishers this weekend, so I'm not sure if potentially he's injured or he what's going on with that. But if he shows up, dude's hard to beat. Plus, in your back pocket, you have Taza.
Yeah.
Who's another, I think Taza won. I forget what trials Taza won, but, he's in there. Another professional level guy on the grind. Pierre-Olivier Leclerc, we've seen him take a bunch of stuff. We've covered some of the events he's taken. I've seen him kind of take other events that we haven't been able to cover. Dude, those 3 dudes are tough to beat in their own right, have won tournaments in their own right against high-level competition. TriStar's team to beat.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to this one. Super excited that Fanatics is streaming more stuff. Really, really looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
All right, so that does it for this jet-lagged edition of the Grappling Rewind. It's not even jet-lagged because the time difference is only 1 hour between us and Dallas.
Yeah. No, it's not jet-lagged. It's just exhausted. But it was worth it, man. It was so cool. And, it's great to interact with the jiu-jitsu community. Actually being able to hang out with Josh Palmer again.
Yeah, I got to grapple with Josh Palmer first time.
Yeah, so did I. It was great. Josh is the man. He's the one of the voices behind the commentary in Kasai. I don't think we mentioned that.
Cage Warriors. He does
Polaris. Yep.
Yeah, him and Jay are 2 of my friends. And Sean Williams was there as well. Dude, great commentary team. The commentators don't get enough love, and so it's really cool to actually get a chance to train with Josh. The guy we hear so often.
Yeah, exactly. And just to also pick his brain about stuff and hang out in general.
Again, I forgot to interview him again.
Yeah,
we talked to him at ADCC. We talked to him here both times of sorry, Josh, I forgot to ask you the question I want to ask.
Because he's also super busy day of too.
He finished the event and now he was like, I gotta go get food. I was like, okay, yep. So we didn't get a chance to catch him, but dude, overall, hugely great weekend. Would do it again. I would love to have a little more time to sleep. But, man, it was such a fun weekend. Yeah. We had such a good time.
It was dope. And, I I had a phenomenal time. Dallas is really cool. I'm looking forward to, the next Kasai is a super series. It's going to be New York.
Yeah.
I'm going to go up to New York for that.
yeah.
Cause like my mom still lives in New York. Like actually, like if you want to come, Maine, we can go and crash in New York for free and go to a fucking Kasai.
I will drive to New York and forget like whatever plan. Is there a date yet for it? Do you know?
No, I remember because we talked to Rich about this, and he was like, they are aiming for.
I don't think
April?
I don't think they announced anything.
No, they didn't. I'm not saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying generally speaking in that time frame.
Okay.
Is when he was saying they're considering a few dates in that vicinity.
So clear that section to make a trip up there to do that.
Yeah.
Because it was so much fun to cover that event.
Yeah.
And they always put on fire cards. So if I can get a chance to travel for more jiu-jitsu stuff, again, I said I'd do that in 2020, and I've enjoyed it since then. It's been worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was just thinking about this with the Parabellum, like, so again, to kind of emphasize the state of jiu-jitsu, right? Like we just talked about how we're seeing all these juveniles like whooping ass and are making names for themselves as professional fighters. We're now seeing people from other countries make names for them, professionally. Like we just looked at a Canadian card and we recognized a bunch of people on that card, right?
Like that card is happening in Ontario,
right?
Like,
and then
I don't think we've covered. I actually don't think we've covered a Canadian event on the Grappling Rewind since we've been running.
I can't think of it.
I think this will be the first professional jiu-jitsu event we've ever covered in Canada. Like that's
dope. The
huge.
sport
we've
is
covered
growing.
Stuff in Korea, we've covered stuff in Angola, we've covered stuff in Europe,
Guam,
in Japan, U.S.
Yep.
Like it's expecting. We covered an event in Mexico before.
Yep. Obviously Brazil.
I was trying to think. It's like Brazil, that country too.
But like it's amazing to see the state of the sport. Like we in this podcast we talk about a German grappler, right? Like Freddie's German.
Freddie.
We talked about Welsh grapplers, in Ash Williams and Fionn Davies, let alone the Australians. I wonder, has there been an event in Australia that we've covered? I feel like there has been. But like
we covered a couple of events in
like
Australia.
the sport is going international, dude, and like people are like countries are now producing fighters that are like top tier. You know, like
Langacker.
Yeah.
Like, wherever he's from.
Norway, I
yes,
believe.
I believe that's correct. I always mix up the flag.
Yeah. It's dope to see. Obviously, like a bunch of the Eastern European countries, like
all the
producing
stands.
it. Yeah,
all the stands,
Russia
with one chin beard and crazy double leg. I'm like, man, he's got 14 V's in his name and a bowl cut. Like, this isn't gonna end well for me.
Yeah, no, it's dope to see that.
It's been amazing to watch the expansion. Like at the end of the show or something. Like, no, it's amazing. I cannot wait for the rest of the stuff we're gonna cover in 2020. Going to New York, going to I want to travel at least like 6 times this year.
Yeah, let's do it. Off the top of my head, doing Kasai New York will be baller.
Yep.
We can go and we can visit gyms.
We're doing ADCC trials in New York.
Yeah.
So.
I'd love to go to BJJ Fanatics.
One of those would be cool.
And then. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're interested about what events you should go to, thegrapplingrewind.com has a great events list on it. You can check out all the latest events. I usually update that pretty frequently, so it's usually pretty up to date.
We've also been posting a lot of articles. And
we're putting out a ton of content regularly on the Grappling Rewind Facebook, on the Grappling Rewind website as well as the YouTube channel, where all the interviews are going to come out. Like, we are expanding the coverage that we're able to do in 2020, and it's
It's been really great. We have a whole team now that's really excellent. I didn't get the chance to say it, but Zach did an amazing job.
Dude, I listened to that when I was editing. I was like, man, we gotta step up a little bit because man, Zach is like first time on the show, knocks it out of the park. I was like, okay, well I gotta get better at what I do. Yeah. So it was great. Good to have him on. You'll be definitely seeing or hearing more of Zach, depending on what version of the show you listen to or watch in the future. He brings, I think, it's a great level of coverage that we are super excited to have. The whole team has gotten better. Guys are writing. Josh put out articles this week on Euros. You put an article about Kasai. Simon wrote an article. I've written articles. Like, it's like...
Yeah.
We're out some great content.
Absolutely.
2020 is already killing it. It's already beaten 2019, which was a garbage year in general. So, like, I'm excited.
Yeah.
You next week?
I'm in next week.
Awesome.
I'm thankfully, knock on wood, don't have travel until April, unless it's something.
Unless we're doing jiu-jitsu stuff. Maybe.
Unless something really fucking cool comes up, which is what ends up happening, which is not a complaint.
No,
cool
it's not a
shit
complaint,
comes
but it
up.
makes you tired, like we are today.
Yeah. But, we didn't get to cover it in news, but it looks like Marcelo is going to be releasing some content on BJJ Fanatics.
Dude,
yeah.
We talked about it. Like, I don't know when the last time he has put out an instructional instructional material not on his website.
Yeah.
So to have him film an instructional, I think I have some stuff from him from like 2005 or something. I have some old school Marcelo instructionals that I've watched through, and like I have no idea what it's going to be about, but I'm excited.
I'm excited. I could, he had an Instagram story where he was talking about sharpening his knives, and dude, I could watch him talk about sharpening knives and doing mundane shit all day long. I fucking love Marcelo.
You talk about equivalent. It's equivalent of like the Mendes brothers come out and do something that's not AOJ online.
Yeah.
And do like instructional again. It's like
it's huge.
It's on that level
huge.
of like
his only content really has been like regularly on
MG in Action.
MG in Action, yeah.
Yeah, which is his website.
And he's such a like direct, awesome. I love the way he thinks about jiu-jitsu. I truly believe more than anyone that Marcelo is like a good person. Like every time
we took a moral high ground there for a second.
Well, no, I mean it's like in jiu-jitsu, it's hard to gauge that. Ryan Hall has a really amazing open letter, if you haven't read it, on not partaking in hero worship. I think he has a very unique perspective. I think especially he was at TLI, right? Mm-hmm. I think that clearly influenced him when he writes this article, but it's a very powerful article because it talks about not engaging in this like cultishness that we see in traditional martial arts, and we see this come up in the jiu-jitsu community a lot, and I'm particularly sensitive to it, or I'm like I don't trust people who get that level of following, with students who like believe in them and all this shit.
Like a guy like Marcelo.
There's one guy who I'm like, I just like in the interactions that I've seen him, the stances that he's taken, I'm like, he seems like a genuinely good dude. Like when the time that I think of especially is like how heartbroken he was kicking Dylan out.
Yeah, and Munch.
Yeah, and Munch. Like that hurt him, and he was like taking a stance just for the integrity of his gym, and it wasn't like personal against, or I shouldn't say it wasn't personal, but it wasn't like malicious against them,
right?
And like Marcelo's dope. I absolutely am stoked to see like whatever he puts out, like with BJJ Fanatics.
It is super exciting. So, any other closing thoughts, Emil?
That's it, man.
All right. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host
Emil,
and we are the Grappling Rewind. We'll see you on the mats. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.